Hello, welcome. I'm watercolor artist Lisa Christensen, and I am so delighted to share with you ways to use watercolor and to make beautiful palettes that will become your best friend, which I will show you in this tutorial on my favorite palette that I've made completely for myself, and I use it every day. I love it. I will also share with you ways to buy watercolor to paint and things to look forward to. In this lesson, I share with you the studio palette that I have, and that has all of the primary and some secondary colors. And then I have convenience colors that go into I don't feel like mixing colors, so I buy the convenience colors already mixed and they're in tube paints. And then we go into the mineral colors where we are actually painting with real minerals. It's going to be a wonderful time. Come join and enjoy the ride, and we'll see you in my studio. This video would not be perfect unless I mentioned this book, Confident Color. It is by far one of my favorite watercolor books. It is a tool that you can use, a reference guide, if you will, and this book has changed the way I have viewed color and how I use color in my paintings. I highly recommend it, and I will often refer back to this book often in my watercolor practice. There are 3 different types of watercolors that you can get, like just that you can buy, and I wanted to share with you like my 3 different. So we'll start with the first one. The first one is like your regular colors that brands sell, right? So like cerulean blue, they are like one color, usually one color. And then like this ultramarine violet isn't necessarily one color, but I don't consider it in the second one either. This bag in particular is my studio bag. Like, this is the pigments that I am used to using all the time, and so I go to these often. You'll see like some of them are almost gone, like this Quin Sienna. Oh my gosh, my favorite for fall. Rose of Ultramarine is considered a convenience color, so it technically shouldn't be in here, but most of everything in this bag is like the primary or secondary colors that I use on a very regular basis, and I often will restock them when needed, right? Like, so lots and lots of colors, mostly primary, sometimes secondary colors, and I just enjoy painting with them. Sometimes I'll have one of my favorite convenience colors, which is another term that you will get used to. Convenience colors are colors that are mixed together to get you a different color. So like Rosy Red Gold is one of my favorites, and it has a couple of different hues in it. It doesn't have just yellow or red. It has a dairy light yellow. It also has red oxide, which is like a neutral red, and then it has some quinacridone red and quinacridone yellow. So we have 4 different colors in this tube of paint, but it's just lovely to work with. This is Rose of Ultramarine, and so it has ultramarine and like a blue, ultramarine blue, maybe ultramarine blue, and then it has Quin Red. So instead of buying quinacridone red and then mixing it with ultramarine blue, which a lot of artists do, they came out with a convenience tube, so you don't have to mix those 2. Isn't that lovely? I just love it. One of my other favorites is Undersea Green. That is with you can always like ultramarine blue, which doesn't surprise me, and then Quin Gold. And Quin Gold is so pretty. I use Quin Gold all the time, and I would mix Quin Gold and ultramarine all the time. Now I don't have to. I can just get this beautiful tube and then call it good. And because I love Christmas and I love colors, I want to share with you some of my favorite Christmas colors. Another one that I love is ultramarine turquoise. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty, and I just love anything turquoise, and cobalt turquoise is another good one. But let's get started. So there's those 2. There's the regular pigments that usually is just the primary, and secondary pigments, right? And you might be like saying, well, like, why wouldn't she just use Quinceanna instead of Aussie Red Gold? Because the colors are totally different, but they're so pretty. And so, anyways, it's just fun. These two are always going to be like together, like if you went shopping for pigments. But then the third one, alright, the third way to get watercolor pigment is what we call, like, I call it mineral watercolor, but it's Primatech from Daniel Smith. And this one in particular that I'm holding that I just grabbed out is Jade Genuine. So I'm literally painting with jade. This was like a $20 tube. Totally worth it. The green is phenomenal. I'm going to lay that on the side so we can show you. The other one that I really like, Sleeping Beauty Turquoise, gives this really, really beautiful sky for, I think, for all atmospheres. But I do love Green Appetite Genuine. You can see how much I use this. It's like at least half gone. That's a good one. And then I also like, Jade and Green Appetite are my two favorites. And then for a nice pretty red, there's not a whole lot. I do like Mayan Red, although it's a little pinky. But Garnet is really pretty, so we might try Garnet too. Anyways, let's get started with the actual colors of Christmas, because that's what we're working on. But I do love using color. I recommend playing with your color. I recommend doing color plays. And I think color plays are great ways to turn into cards. I think you can make a really simple and elegant abstract card using color plays. Alright, so for color plays, and we're playing with hues and color, you'll want a palette. I have 3 different palettes that I wanted to show you. This one is my like travel palette. I use this, I take this with, this is like my best friend palette. Like if I just want to paint, I'm going to take this palette. It has curated colors that I personally love. It has all of these colors, but it has 2 different types of alizarin crimson because I absolutely cannot get enough of alizarin crimson. A Scarlet Lake brown madder, which is like almost like a pinky color. It's really pretty. And then I have like my little bit of oranges and yellows into my greens and my blues, and it's just my palette that is always there for me no matter what. And I always have these pigments that I can just add when I need more color. So I'm just spraying my palette down. I do also like this palette. I curated this palette. So I took a workshop with Michael Holter, and I'm going to ruin my brush. Anyways, Michael Holter, who is a wonderful national recognized watercolor artist, and he gave us like 20 pigments that he loves to paint with. And I think I took like his 20 pigments and turned it into this with some of my favorites. So it's just a well-loved palette that a lot of other watercolorists will use, and we use them in different ways, like summer, fall, winter. This palette just does it all. This is my workhorse palette and I love it. I bought the palette clean, of course, and new, and then I added these things. I added the little, I don't even know if I can get them off, the little wells. Each one can come out. Like this one I have marked as alizarin crimson rose, and so I know that when I'm out I can just add more water, but that's all I did. And then I can just move this back so it's nice and tight. And so this is my favorite palette, but I also have a palette from Mission Watercolor that I did the same thing to. I bought the palette. This is a fairly new palette to me, so it's not as well loved as my other palette. As you can see, it's a little bit more clean. I don't always like to wipe off my watercolors because I can always use it, but look how vibrant this is. Oh my gosh, so vibrant. Like this green, this bamboo green and the Viridian. Oh, so awesome. And then I love my Cobalt Turquoise right here, ultramarine. Like, it's just a lovely palette. It's very bright, so you have to learn how to use your colors with this palette. But let me show you the tubes. So this is what I got. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty, isn't it? And it just makes my heart happy. So I wouldn't necessarily take this whole thing out with me to go paint with, but it's like opening up a box of chocolate. It's so pretty. Look at this. So I have not used hardly any of that pigment. The pigment that I have used has just been in that palette, and it looks brand spanking brand new. And so that's why I like having tube watercolors, because I can put in my, I can curate my palette like I did here. I just put each tube into a full size well, and then I can take this with me wherever I go, and it's little compact. I don't have to worry about it. Now these four are Daniel Smith iridescent colors, because I like to paint with iridescent. Alright, so we'll play around with this too, because I love Mission Watercolor. It is some of my favorites. So there's that. Now, if you are not feeling like spending hundreds of dollars on pigment just to make a palette, and I say $100 because this watercolor set, that will last me for a very, very long time. This set of watercolor, I have, again, probably about $100 worth of different watercolor tubes in this palette. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to create your own palette. I did, because I enjoy collecting pigment here and there once a month, and I've been watercoloring for about 10 years. So of course I have a collection of watercolor, but it happens gradually. And for birthdays, I'm always asking for a set of watercolor or a couple tubes of watercolor. And so, you know, it just works. But if you are just starting and you are looking for a nice palette, I highly recommend this Malang solid watercolor. And I use this a little bit, and it has this nice protector, and it also has the swatches, and you can swatch all of this out. But they have this is a lovely, lovely, lovely set of watercolors. I cannot speak highly enough of it. The watercolors are more Japanese than translucent, but still beautiful watercolor. I take this with me all the time when I know I'm just gonna like paint a little bit. And here's the swatches for this. I am very much a swatchy person. I like to swatch out my colors so I know exactly what I'm going to get and then how I can mix them. But look at all of these beautiful colors, like for real, great watercolor palette. And this is called the Malang solid watercolor pigment, and they're Japanese watercolor, but I love them. Yeah, you can get them on Amazon, and I highly recommend them. I also love the iridescent the iridescent pigment that comes with it. So fun. So anyways, I'll probably be painting with that too. But those are just some ideas on how to use color, or how color comes, and how you can utilize watercolor. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to look at this color swatch and know that, okay, if I do vermilion and maybe mix that with a little bit of deep magenta, I'll get a really pretty berry color. And if I use hooker's green with a little bit of olive green, I'll probably get a really pretty, like, evergreen bow, whatever, evergreen feel. So let's just paint a card. This is another piece of scrap paper that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and move that card thing right over there. I might, so here's there's sap, here's hooker's green right here, here's olive green right there, and there's vermilion, and what did I say? I also said vermilion and, oh, deep magenta right there. Alright, so let's mix up this is the magenta, deep magenta, and then I'm going to get my vermilion, which is like a cad red, and that's going to neutralize the color. It's not too warm and it's not too cool. And So now I have that. I know that I want my evergreen boughs to be kind of like in this corner and this corner. And then I want just little berries. So I'll leave this alone because I want to start with my evergreen first. But for evergreens, I just did a video on evergreens. And I will share that and post that in the description. But there's my olive, and then here's my hooker's green. Sometimes with hooker's green, I also like to add my really pretty, like cobalt blue is a good one, just to give it, just to like, I don't know, cool it down a little bit. And then if I needed, I can also add a teeny tiny bit of red and just right in here. That way it becomes more of like a greeny brown, but I think I may have messed it up. Nope. So now it's more of a brown. If I don't want that, I'll just add more green right in here. So now it's more of a, it's definitely not not just straight from the palette. I mixed it with 3 or 4 different colors, and it's the green that I like. So we'll go ahead and start. I like to just kind of start one way with one long-ish line, and I'm using a round brush, and I'm just going to be flicking like I'm drawing fur, which is fun. Yeah, something like that. And then I'll go in with more of like my straight green, and then I'll just add more of that texture. And I'm using my fingers to flick. I used to say wrist, but it's not really my wrist. Ooh, I love that. Look at that. So pretty. It's getting there. I'm going to let that set. I might even add, while that's kind of doing its mingling and doing its beautiful thing, I'm going to go in with this gold. Because I have the palette, I might as well use it. And I'm a big fan of iridescent gold, so I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to repeat the same process on this side, and then over here and here. But because it was wet, I could add that beautiful greenery. And I always like to paint like down. It probably doesn't matter. But I like doing something like this because then I have enough room to like put a sentiment down if I wanted to. And light pressure. Yeah, something like that. And then I can clean my brush and get some more of that beautiful gold iridescent happening. Sometimes you have to work for it. It doesn't just come. There. Now I can add some of my berries. And I'll add a couple berries here. When I do my berries, I just like to kind of sketch the berries. I don't know, there might be a better way, but I haven't found it. Yeah, something like that. And maybe I will go in and add just a little bit more of this warmer red, just to give it a little bit more form, a little bit more shape. That works. I really like that. I'm going to zoom in just a tad bit for you so you can really truly see what I'm doing. You just might not be able to see my whole palette. Yeah, there we go. Alright, I'm going to turn this to its side. I want to make sure my brush is all clean. And then I'm going to add some more of this beautiful greeny, like it's just a green mix at this point. I'm going to start here. Kind of something like that. Alright. Go in with my darker green with about the same amount of pigment on my brush. I'm just going to add that. I'm going to clean that out. I'm going to put some beautiful gold iridescent in. Ooh, I'm loving the gold. There. That's looking quite lovely. I feel like I lost some of my cobalt blue, so I'm going to add that in a little bit. I feel like it's just not there. Now, I'm going to add some of that gold. Ooh, it's a little wet. Looking beautiful as always. And then I can just kind of whoosh, 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 whoosh. Very light flicks, really, is what this is. Yeah, I'm liking that. So this is another way to paint a card. Alright, and we're just gonna give him a cute little berries. It didn't leave a whole lot of room for like a Merry Christmas, but that's okay. I can always like maybe cut it in half. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I might just leave it like this and then just add some of this really pretty gold and just splatter the rest of it. And maybe I'll just print something on vellum on top of it and send it as a card that way. I think that would look really pretty. I like to just flick some water just to get the gold splatters, not feeling so like I don't want this shape to necessarily be there. And then if I see some splattering that I don't like, or maybe I just am over the splattering, then I can just go in and move the splattery stuff all around. That's also really pretty. And then you leave a little bit of splatter so it looks like it's just a little bit less, it's a little loose but not loosey-goosey. Yeah, something like that. And I really kind of enjoy that. And there's a lot of beautiful textures to it. The colors are color harmony because I use the reds with the green and the greens with the red. It just works for color harmony. So I recommend being a student of color, and I recommend playing around with your color and documenting either in a book or somewhere and say, this is what I used here and I really like these colors because of the depth or because of the translucency or just because it really, they work together well. And then you become a better artist that way, in my opinion. And I think having a good knowledge of color makes all the difference in the world. So I hope this was helpful. I hope these colors make you feel alive. I love what George O'Keeffe said at the beginning of this book, and I'll just read it out loud. She said, she said, color is one of the great things in the world that makes life worth living to me. And as I come to think of painting, it's my efforts to create an equivalent with paint color for the world, life as I see it. And so we can be students and masters of color just by playing with the colors that we have. And I'm so grateful for color. It has made me so much happier when I have color in my life to paint with. It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you found this at all helpful, and hit that like button if you found it to be helpful. Thanks so much.